Dude, Airbnb is this is my prediction. They're going to IPO and it's going to tank right away.
Airbnb has been suffering massively during the CV-19 thing, if nobody's been paying attention. And they wanted to IPO earlier.
They're suffering twice. They're not just suffering in their actual business model, but they're also getting shit on the news because they were a massive liability in the Rona.
Oh, yeah. And nobody's traveling, obviously. But the thing is, yes, their IPO, let's hope it tanks, because this is a fantastic business model. They might be really crapped on for the next 2 years. Let's hope they just drop like a rock.
Can we be
and
honest?
Let's pick those up shares up cheap. That's what I want.
Airbnb is the Uber of houses. If you really think about it, they don't actually have a product. They're like an agent or broker. And so they don't really have any overhead, and people come to them. Both come to them. Clients come to them, and businesses come to them. It's a great business model.
Like and subscribe, everybody. Like we said, we're at 150 subs, and it'd be great to hit 200, let's say within this month.
We're going to hook you up.
It's their fault for waiting this long to IPO. This is what happens when these companies wait too long. They weren't expecting this to happen, obviously, but this is when these unicorns become worth, they were valued at 40, 50 billion.
If they had IPO'd before, they'd have had a big market cap.
Yeah, but they would have gotten the money in their pockets. You understand? Mm-hmm. They would have gotten higher share prices and the money in their pockets to withstand this thing. And now all the investors are basically clamoring for an exit. This is why they're coming out. All the investors who've dumped in billions of dollars want a fucking exit. Okay? They want to dump the shares on our stupid asses, and people do not buy their shares when they come out. Okay? 3 to 6 months you have to wait.
I mean, if we can go back and look at Facebook. Facebook came out, or even Lyft. Lyft came out. I was there, $75 waving my money. I think just dropped like
right. But I'm saying here 6 months later, it's still at $30. So I think the average of just IPO bottoming is 3 to 6 month window, or at least from the last I read.
It could be, but anytime we say, based on anything in the history, nothing that happened since February or March it's been the millennials market. So all of our Gen X thinking, applying it to this market, this thing could skyrocket right out of the gate.
It might, because people aren't looking at it. They're this will come back. This will come back.
Yeah, it could skyrocket right out of the gate. I mean, that's what happened with Google. I was there, $100 IPO.
I was
that's
there
way
too,
too much to pay for it. And it just flew.
It never stopped.
It never stopped. And then by then I was like, 120 is too high, 130.
That was a great business. That was an amazing business. And everybody was using Google that we knew. So
and back then it was just Google. That was before Gmail, before GChat, before Google Maps, before
a lot of stuff, right? Autonomous cars, Waymo, all the stuff they spun off. Airbnb is, I also think, a great business. But I think if you're in the COVID time, that's not a great business.
This is what scares me.
Yeah.
Airbnb's valuation has been lowered to 18 billion, and it was 35 billion last year. So this would have been a 50%.
There you go.
Had they have IPO'd last year with the Fed printing money, they might, this valuation would have been somewhat propped up. It'll be interesting.
Well, I don't know. I think other companies are suffering too. Uber is suffering too. Uber is sort of stuck now at the $30 range, and they've been stuck there for a while.
This sentence.
They're going under 10 billion, dude.
Company received $1 billion loan from investors to weather the pandemic. So these are questions that we don't know.
I think 6 months is a good window to see a true bottoming. And even if you don't get it at the total bottom, who gives a shit? But I think day one is not going to be a good sign. Even if it pumps, let's say it pumps, who cares? It's going to drop.
And then buy back in on the low.
I mean, remember, Facebook,
same thing. Lyft,
pumped,
same thing.
Dropped. Twitter, pumped, dropped.
Yeah.
Uber, pump, drop. Lyft, pump, drop. If you're not getting the pattern of what happens to IPOs, that's just what I mean. I think Google's one of the examples where it didn't drop. I thought it didn't. That's like one of the few examples.
Also depends on what the price is, because they can do $18 billion and they can price that at $12. That thing's gonna fly. It's not gonna tank if it's at 12. I don't think. If it's at 50,
that would be smart for them to do something like affordable, and it would be smart for them to do something more affordable, because then the people who aren't paying attention to market caps and what's going on.
I promise you, they're going to pick a number that's easily divisible by 1,200. So people get that stimulus check and they're like, 10 shares, done.